my belief is that people live in stories. And in fact, I believe that the reason that we tell stories and love them so much is because it's most appropriate for human beings to conceptualize the world as a story. We do that naturally. And you see, this is part of where I think there's quite a large conflict in the scientific worldview. I've tried to conceptualize that. I had a big talk in one of my interviews about this, Darwin versus Newton, because scientific materialists like Sam Harris say, and the other three major famous atheists, Dennett and Hitchens and
Dawkins.
Dawkins, yes, they basically have a Newtonian worldview, which is quite strange, especially for someone like Dawkins, who's fundamentally a Darwinian. Now, as far as I can tell, the narrative structure, including the deep structures of mythology, evolved. And they evolved because they accurately represent the manner in which the world should be construed, conceptualized, perceived, if you're going to act within it. And that's a completely different issue than what the world is made of from an objective material perspective.
Right.
Because the objective material perspective strips all of the value away from its objects. It does that technically. It's part of the method, right?
Yes.
What you think of an object is irrelevant. It's only what part of the object manifests itself to everyone that's going to be regarded as real. So It strips the subjectivity and it strips the value off the phenomena. And then it leaves us in a valueless universe.
Right.
Which, now, you'd have to be a fool not to observe the kind of technological power that's granted to us. But the price we've paid is disenchantment.
Right.
Because actually things do have meaning. And the proof of that, the most direct proof, is pain.
Yes.
And no one disbelieves in their pain. And I would say that, Descartes said, well, I think, therefore I am, but it's more of a religious statement. And you can derive this from many religions, that the fundamental truth is I suffer, therefore I am.
Yes.
And I think the reason for that is because I don't care what you don't have faith in. The one thing you believe in is your own pain.
Right.
And pain is a form of meaning. And, what alleviates pain, therefore, and suffering is also a form of meaning. And I would say that the primary religious injunction, along with telling the truth, is to do what you can to alleviate suffering.
Yes.
And I think the truth is actually a corollary of that, because untruth produces more suffering than truth.
Right.
So, and, it seems fairly self-evident that it's wrong to produce counterproductive and unnecessary suffering.
Right.
I think that's what people consider crimes against humanity. And one of the things that Solzhenitsyn pointed out was that in the aftermath of World War II and its horrors, the international community got together and said, well, look, we may not be able to agree on what's right, but maybe we could agree that certain things are self-evidently wrong. And, that fell into the category, say, of torturing incarcerated concentration camp victims, or maybe performing live vivisection on them for medical experimentation. Everyone was willing to say, well, moral relativism be damned. No, that seems, it doesn't seem wrong. It seems evil.
Yes.
And the problem with denying the existence of evil is that means that you have to relativize the Holocaust, for example. And that's a step that people are generally not willing to take.
Right.
And no wonder. Well, if you posit the existence of evil, you instantaneously posit the existence of good, because good is whatever takes you the farthest possible away from evil.
Right.
And you may not be able to define that because it's complex. I mean, we don't know exactly how the Nazis and the Germans fell into the trap they fell into. Right. I mean, we do know that lying had a tremendous amount to do with it, just as it did in the Soviet Union. Having sorted this out, at least to some degree, I was interested in the the responsibility of the individual to maintain the integrity of the state, because it's actually the awareness and consciousness of the individual that serves as the medicine for the corruption of the state. It's the individual consciousness that keeps the state alive instead of it merely acting as the corpse of the past.
Right.
And that ties into that idea of revivifying the father.
Yes.
We all have a responsibility to update and revivify our culture.
Right.
And not to merely abandon it, because we actually live inside of it. We live inside of its corpse. That's a very old
Wow.
idea. It's the oldest idea we have in narrative form. It's part of the Enuma Elish, which is a Mesopotamian story.